Linda. And last but not least, Heather.
Hello from Boulder, Colorado. So I am, let's see, I've been a therapist for over 30 years, and it's interesting how, it's a long and winding road that sometimes gets you where you land, and you don't always see how all the dots are going to connect. So early in my career as a therapist, I've always been really interested in non-ordinary states of consciousness. So studying dream work, went to Harvard and did training in mind-body medicine. Always really interested in nature immersion, these alternative states, dream work, past life recall. A lot of that sort of non-ordinary and metaphysical is always kind of called to me. And I was always just sort of weaving it into what I was doing in my private practice, but kind of on this, like on the down low, because it wasn't what most clinicians would say was like legit. And then, flash forward and I get the opportunity. I just turned 60 and I get the opportunity a little over a year ago to become one of the first certified psychedelic assisted psychotherapists in the US through the Integrative Psychiatry Institute. So it's like, wow, all my cool hippie stuff is now like legit and I can call it part of my career. When I got that certification through the Integrative Psychiatry Institute, I took it upon myself to fly to Jamaica and live in Jamaica for 3 months, leading back-to-back psilocybin retreats and doing a deep dive working with this medicine, which I was already familiar with in my own personal experience. And a couple of the other sort of, synchronistic things that aren't coincidence. The week that I received my certification as a psychedelic assisted psychotherapist, I also got a breast cancer diagnosis. And I'm like, well, wow, that's kind of crazy. So just a little over a year ago, had a double mastectomy, went through the whole cancer journey. And the first thing I did with that new diagnosis, my personal tale, the first thing I did was a 5-gram journey on mushrooms. And I will tell you about that later because I don't think this is the part I'm supposed to share that. But, really some personal experience using this medicine with cancer. And I now work with women with cancer and women with end of life using psilocybin to provide that, deep psycho-spiritual support around some of those existential angst. And then the quick piece, my relationship to hospice and palliative care, I went through, I'm not going to give you my resume. I'm going to tell you the down and dirty truth of it. I went through this like really horrible divorce. I had been doing women's wellness retreats all over the globe, flying around the world, working for the Four Seasons, Golden Door, doing all this really cool, fun stuff. Had a divorce and they said, yeah, no, that's not going to work. You need health insurance, you need a job, you need to. And the only job I could get at that point in time was with hospice. And I thought, I don't like dying. I don't like old people. This is not going to be good. I started working for hospice as a medical social worker, and it was the most profound, spiritual, meaningful. I was like, oh my God, you're paying me to do this. This is like the most sacred honor to sit at the bedside with people that are terminally ill. And it brought all that psycho-spiritual, metaphysical, woo-woo stuff. And I'm like, this is powerful. So I'll leave it there for you. But that's my connection to some of these components.
That's great, Heather. Well, you know what? Since you're on a roll, you can start this next part, because what we had talked about doing is sharing more of your perspective on how you see psychedelics helping your patients or clients, and sharing a story or two. And I suppose you could tell the story about the 5 grams that your friend did.
So, I'm in Colorado. I did that full up legal, girlfriend.
But yeah, but talking more about your perspective, what you bring, what you think psychedelics can do, especially for this population. I think part of this too is, in the psychedelic bubble we all live in, we talk about preparation and integration, and people don't necessarily know what we mean when we say that. So as you talk about, your perspective, if you could weave that in as well, all of you. But yeah, Heather, starting with you.
Yeah, so I'll just tell my personal tale with cancer and psilocybin and how those came together and were so supportive for me. And it's now a model I use with clients. So, I got this diagnosis and I decided that I needed to really understand kind of what was going on a bigger psycho-spiritual level that led to this dis-ease in my body. So I knew that, modern medicine could handle the whole, I decided just to go for, my mother had died of breast cancer and she got diagnosed at the same age as me. And she chose to just do a little lumpectomy and a little this and a little of that. And it came back 15 years later. And I thought, yeah, I'm not going to walk. I'm going to do this journey differently. Go ahead, take everything off, double mastectomy. They were getting a little tired and saggy anyway. Build me some new ones. It's all good. So I did this big deep dive with psilocybin. I have obviously friends and colleagues in this space, so somebody who could support and guide me. And my preparation was really about that. My intention going into this was to really understand, as I said, what is going on other levels that I don't have access to that potentially relates to this dis-ease. I'm not going to say cause this disease. I think we want to be careful about, blaming the victim, right? Like I didn't ask to get cancer, but I wanted to understand what other components might have gone into this. So on my,
there if you want it. Steve?
so on, oh, could everybody mute, please? Yeah. So on my journey, first, I always do intention cards. I do oracle cards, and the cards that I drew talked about facing your fears, dancing with the devil, and trust, which seemed rather appropriate. So I went into this journey and on the medicine, which was pretty, it was pretty scary at times where I was, because this was early in my diagnosis. So I didn't know how this was going to look for me. And I have two beautiful daughters in their 20s. And of course, I was facing a lot of existential angst and fear and thinking, oh my God, is this, So, and these are things that our clients and patients and people face, and then we all face. I also work with a lot of college kids who have eco anxiety and distress about the state of the planet. Another story. But anyway, so on my journey, I got all this information and download about that I had patterns of fear-based thinking that I'd been carrying for years, that were ancestral, that were from my mother and my grandmother, that were so deeply tied to trusting my partner and being in relationship and not having fears about finance and scarcity. My mother got divorced when I was a very little kid, anyway, whole stuff that came so clear to me on the mushrooms. And the message I kept getting was, you need to release these patterns of fear-based thinking. You need to release fear. You need to live in trust, and you need to live joyfully. You need to find ways to, when you notice those patterns of fear-based thinking, let them go, move into a place of joy. My mother's name was Joy. My mother died of breast cancer. The mushrooms kept saying, you need to live joyfully. This is your opportunity to change the intergenerational fear-based thinking. That was my journey on the mushrooms. I came out of that journey, went through my whole medical experience with this breast cancer thing, kept telling my oncology people and all the doctors, all of this stuff. And they're like, we don't really know what you're talking about, but it's very interesting. I said, well, it's coming. So I'm setting the stage for you to hear this piece of the journey. And the other thing was that it came through on the mushrooms. And again, is how things might come through for when you work with clients. I got this message that I needed to go deep into the wilderness and I needed to cleanse my body in nature and prepare myself for all the medical hoo-ha stuff that was coming down the pike. So we went off into the wilderness of Escalante, Utah, found this magical place with this river and this waterfall. If anybody has been to Lower Calf Falls, it's like a frigging sacred, magical thing. We got there. I don't know how. Well, I do know. It was like magic. There was nobody there. This is unheard of. We hiked in, had the waterfall to ourselves. I stripped down butt naked, bathed in that water, which to me was sacred healing water, and prepared my body for all the stuff that was to come. And flash forward to, I am not a tattoo person whatsoever, but I'm now a year out and I'm going to get tattooed on the side of my new boob the word joyful as an homage to the medicine. And my 20-year-old daughters are going to help me pick the font. They said that was very important. So on the flip side, for integration from that, so that was my journey. And that to me is psychospiritual energetic information that is as much a part of my medical experience, well, as anything else. Okay, the doctors knew, but that to me was really meaningful, gave me meaning making, gave me empowerment, gave me what I could be doing on my cancer journey. And that's the piece that I work now with clients on. How do we take the symbols and the messages and the magic and what comes through with the medicine, and how do we make that have meaning for you in your journey? And psilocybin is not going to cure your people's cancer, but it's going to give you a way to walk that path in a way that you feel now empowered and can see things from different perspectives and on different levels and intergenerational and the bigger magical spiritual piece of it. And I work with I have a couple clients right now who are very late stage cancer, and they know that that psilocybin is not going to change the course of their disease, but they have such a different piece and perspective. And that's what these medicines offer.
Beautiful, Heather. Thank you.